What's up guys, David Land here bringing you another Diecast review. This time we are taking a look at some promo diecasts from the Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed game. Now this is some kind of a collaboration between Texaco and EA Games. These cars came out around the year 2000. I'm not sure of the exact year, but it was either a little bit before Porsche Unleashed, Need for Speed was released, or unleashed if you so prefer. But these were used as promotional material for the game, and the diecast, as you can see, the custom Texaco race car and Mario Andretti's last car are actually action racing kart cars, specifically Reynards from the 2000 CART IndyCar World Series, or at least the molds are. Mario's car is based on a car from 1994, and the custom Texaco race car is a fantasy car. But the important thing about this, and note of my channel, is the fact that I already did a review on a 1/18 scale of these two very cars, the Kenny Brack 1/18 scale Shell Rahal car. But I picked these cars up at Jack's Racing Collectibles in New Jersey. I was hanging out with my friends Race Day 2011 and Matt Dierkel. They both have YouTube channels. The links are in the description and should be coming up as cards on the screen. If you want to go check those guys out, they do some fantastic diecast reviews. But actually, these cars are actually cars I owned previously as a kid. Now, I didn't buy these in period or brand new. It was like the mid-2000s, maybe 2005, 2006. I was living in Franklin, Indiana, which was my hometown. And there was a flea market that opened up in the old Walmart that was in the town that had moved down the street. So the flea market opened up, and I think this was the first time we went in the flea market. We were walking around, and these two cars were there. Now, I picked up the Mario Andretti car on the right side of your screen, and my brother picked up the Texaco, the custom Texaco race car. So we ended up with both cars. And there actually are some subtle differences between the two. They're not exactly the same, which is pretty interesting. I'll be honest, the Mario car is quite the oddball. We'll get into that. But the great thing about these, or maybe just the interesting thing about these, is they actually come with a game. Now, I'll pick up the custom Texaco race car just to show this off. Actually, I'm going to pick up the Mario Andretti because the Mario is actually opened up. So you get your diecast here. It's an action racing collectibles car. Very beautiful, and it says it's the bonus, but let's be honest, most people were buying this for the diecast, so I'm not sure why the diecast is the bonus. It should say bonus CD. But yes, there is a CD in here with a game, Porsche Unleashed. It's only a sampler version of the full game. This version, the Mario car, comes with the 1988 944S Turbo Coupe, and you just open this up and pull out your CD. Now this is the CD. Not much to go over here. I actually played these as a kid, both on my computer. I don't know if they work on new computers or not. There were actually 5 of these discs and 5 cars released. 3 other cars which were not available at Jack's Racing Collectibles were Robert Yates Racing number 28 cars from the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. But obviously, me being the kart fanatic, IndyCar fanatic, obviously these cars I had to pick up. They were $2.99 each, and actually they're pretty plentiful on eBay. And if you want these or the entire complete set, you can get them on eBay for less than $20. So not particularly valuable, but something very interesting to check out because I think they're really high quality diecast. And of course, the kart stuff, the action Indy cars, got to take a look at them. So let's take a look at the custom Texaco race car first and do a diecast review. So obviously, since I haven't shown off this box to you, we'll actually do a closer, more detailed look at this box to show off everything. The boxes are virtually identical, except for this has red trim, Mario's car has purple trim. But as you can see, this game comes with the 1973 911 Carrera RS 2.7 Coupe. And as you can see, the Texaco logo. Now, you may be wondering how it's a Porsche Unleashed. Well, this is the game. This game, Porsche Unleashed, is the reason your favorite racing video games don't have Porsche. Now, from what I understand, EA's license with Porsche has expired, so now you will start to see Porsches in your other games, such as Forza and Gran Turismo and Assetto Corsa and potentially even R Factor and iRacing coming down the line. As you can see, there's some game controls and such. Then here on the bottom, you can see some legalese, which talks much more about Robert Yates Racing and Ricky Rudd than it does CART, Reynard, or Newman-Haast Racing. But yes, the generic custom Texaco race car, as it's an action racing collectible, it is a diecast that is designed, or at least the packaging is designed, to be opened up and resealed. You just have these clamshells here, which are very similar to the old NASCAR Authentics when Spin Master was doing them. And there's your diecast. So let's go in for a closer look. So obviously this paint scheme has no real racing history. It is a fantasy car in the realest sense of the word. So I'm going to take this opportunity to talk specifically about Action Racing's 1/64 scale Reynard here. As you can see, the rear wings do get a little bit loose. I tried to straighten it out there. And also, it's interesting because the front wheels, in fact, all the wheels are, you can kind of camber them a little bit. They're kind of wishy-washy. It's kind of interesting. So you can kind of camber them like a road course and kind of give them a little bit of toe or whatever. But yeah, just a fantastic mold. It's almost exactly the scaled down version of the 1/18 scale. Action did 1/43 scale, 1/18 scale, and 1/64 scale champ cars. Specifically, the Reynard was done in 3 scales. They also did a Lola, but it was in a weird short oval configuration, and they only ever did it in 1/64 scale, or excuse me, 1/18 scale. I would say Action really underutilized their 1/64 scale CART molds. They did, I think, now that I think about it, aside from these 2 cars, which were promos, obviously produced in pretty huge quantities, I only know of a Jimmy Vasser car and then a gift tin for the Target Chip Ganassi Racing as the only 2 examples that Action ever actually released their 1/64 scale Reynard champ car. So kind of an underutilized mold, and I'm going to be real honest right here. I'm going to be real frank. Lionel, if you have this mold, you know, I don't know what it would take licensing-wise, but you've opened Pandora's box a little bit with adding the NHRA cars into NASCAR Authentics. I'm just saying, this is a generic car, a generic paint scheme. You know, without the Firestone branding, theoretically, if you could get the license, or if you still have the license to produce this car, can you put an IndyCar, a classic IndyCar in NASCAR Authentics or Lionel Authentics? I certainly would like that. But yeah, this is absolutely fantastic looking in terms of diecast. It's virtually perfect as a car that's supposed to represent a 2000 Reynard. I would say this scheme really reminds me of something. Well, actually, it reminds me of 2 things. The first thing it reminds me of is a car that would look very fit or would fit in really well with the movie Driven. I don't know why it gives me that vibe, but it does. Maybe it's the Need for Speed branding. But the other thing it kind of reminds me of is a champ car from the post-CART era of champ car racing, which has a lot of weird sponsors and kind of a weird red and black paint scheme. But of course, Texaco is a pretty big sponsor. And it's a pretty generic car, but I think it looks really nice. I'll show the bottom of this car off since it's a little easier to show off the bottom. As you can see, on these 1/64s I should say, it's pretty interesting to see these screws here. Theoretically, you can see CART, 1/64 scale Reynard, 2001 date, so technically it's a 2001 copyright date, but of course it would be a 2000 Reynard. But you could theoretically customize these if you got some together. Should be pretty easy to take apart. So you just would scrape all the paint off, get you some Indy cals, and put together a grid of 2000s champ cars. So, a very nice looking diecast. I like it quite a bit. Obviously, people who aren't fans of fantasy stuff, and usually I'm not, but of course, for an Indy car that's as beautiful as a Reynard, I'll make an exception. And now on to I'm telling you, this Mario car is such an oddball in terms of diecast. It's really weird, but it's kind of wonderful in a weird way. So let's take a look at Mario's last car. And here is a car that is a really weird choice for action racing to have made. This is a car that is supposed to represent Mario Andretti's 1994 final IndyCar race at the Laguna Seca Raceway, which is what is now known as Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca. The problem is the mold they used is on a 2000 Reynard, a car that was 6 years ahead of the time that this car is supposed to be representing. Obviously, it looks very, very modern compared to what Mario was running in that 1994 race. And you guys know I'm a fairly big stickler on accuracy, and this is not a very accurate diecast. Couple other things to point out. The Goodyear tires, of course you may remember the Texaco generic car had Firestones on there and alloy rims. This car has black rims with Goodyear tires, but they didn't even get this right with the Goodyear tires. Now, while Mario ran Goodyears in 1994, in fact all Indy cars ran Goodyears in 1994, the branding should be yellow. For some reason they decided to use white, which doesn't make any sense. They stopped using white for Goodyear tires, I think, around 1991. So that's another point off. And the third point off, which is kind of forgivable considering it's Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, or it's a Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed promo diecast. There is no Ford branding on this car. So you just get the sponsorship logos on this car. Just that are accurate. They are accurate for the period of time that Mario raced this car, but no Ford logos. There would be a Ford logo right about here on the engine cowling. And another problem, of course, is that Newman-Haast Racing never used the Reynard chassis ever in their whole history. They used Lolas. They used Lolas up until 1997 when they switched to the Swift chassis, and then in 2000, the year 2000, they switched back to Lola, which they stuck with until the Panos DP01, which was a spec race car, and then they went to Dallara in the Indy Racing League. Never used a Reynard. And I'm also really not sure. This is the other weird thing, because as a Texaco promotional tool, I kind of understand the logic of using Mario Andretti. Of course, he's one of the most famous racing drivers in the entire world. Still is, really. But at this point in time, they had a Champ Car driver, a kart driver, if you will, by the name of Cristiano D'Amata, who was leading and winning the championship in 2001. So why they didn't take the opportunity to do a Cristiano D'Amata car, which would have been still not entirely accurate because they would have needed to use a Lola car rather than a Reynard, but it's a pretty big missed opportunity from CART or Action or somebody that they could have potentially promoted a current Champ Car or IndyCar champion rather than a guy who had long since retired. But you know what? I'm not going to complain too much about it. It's just interesting to bring up the logic of their choices there. But yeah, you can see the Kmart, Energizer, Gillette, Exide Batteries, Dirt Devil, Texaco. I usually don't read sponsors, but seeing as this is an old car, or at least representing an old car, it's interesting to read the sponsors. Udine, Maxell, Gillette, Anderson Consulting, Exide Batteries again, Kmart, Bosch, Haviland, Kmart, and Goodyear. But I think it's a really nice car. It is a cool diecast. If you do want a cheap Mario Andretti car, this is the one to get. It's easily probably the easiest to get in terms of a Mario car that's not a Disney Pixar car. So if you wanted a Mario Andretti car, I would say go on eBay right now and go get one, because they're, again, very easy to come by. But I have to say the nostalgia bug has gotten me on this one. I'm very happy to bring it back into my collection. Well, I never really left my collection, but I just don't have my childhood collection with me. But anyway, beautiful car, very happy to have it. So let's go on for some final thoughts on the 2 action racing IndyCars. So I'll end with this, my plea to Lionel. If you have these molds still, find a way to release it. I don't know, maybe a David Land on YouTube promo, I don't know. These are really wonderful cars. Again, I would highly suggest picking these up. Again, you can get them dirt cheap. They have metal chassis, rubber tires, and a plastic base. So a little bit more value for your money than Diecast usually are these days. And again, you can get them around the $3 mark, which I found them at Jack's Racing Collectibles for. So a pretty good deal if you can get it. So let me know in the comments what you think of all of these, this weird controversial information I've been spreading during this video. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on it and subscribe for more Diecast reviews, IndyCar videos, and just racing videos in general. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube, and we'll see you in the next video.